and konnichiwa, and welcome to the first ToQger vlog. So, I finally got around to actually watching ToQger now that I found the subs. Found an episode that wasn't very glitchy and lagging. So, now that I've seen it, I'm going to tell you guys what I think about it in vlog form, of course. And I'm going to do this throughout the series, so every episode, as soon as I get a chance to watch it, I'll come on here, tell you guys what I think about it, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll have a nice little time capsule of my media impressions of ToQger, 2 or 3 days after it actually airs. So I apologize for being behind the curve and everything, but don't worry, we'll go ahead and get every episode in there. Promise that's what we'll go ahead and have, because heck, once finals are done, I have nothing else to do for the summer. But let's go ahead and talk about the episode. So it starts normal enough, a bunch of kids playing using their imaginations and whatnot, and this creepy train from out of nowhere comes and kidnaps them. And on the train, we have our Red Ranger, who's the only one whose name I can actually remember at the moment and pronounce correctly, Right. And the train is pulled over by the Rainbow Line of the ToQger, and the first 4 ToQgers come out, attack, and then they all get back together, bring Right in there, and it turns out that they've all known each other since they were children. They go out again, find the children, stop the evil train, transform, Megazord, all that good stuff. So it's a pretty standard first episode. You introduce, what they were starting to show, like the innocence of the world, then show the villain come in, the Rangers show up, having already established their power sets and so forth, and then go ahead and battle them. I will go ahead and have a link to the episode, because there's obviously a lot more there. I'm just kind of giving you guys a pretty simple outline as to what's happening. Excuse me. But what we're going to look at is basically everything else in between. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start with the Rangers. Now, the thing about the Rangers is there isn't too much personality there to really comment on, just little shades of things. For example, we look at the Blue Ranger, obviously the way he's dressed with the glasses and everything, and the fact that Right has to shut him up, that obviously indicates he's the smart one. That's all we really have to go on off the moment. The Yellow Ranger, she's a lot like Luca, a lot like the other recent Yellow Rangers. She's like tough and strong and all that, so sassy, I guess, would be the word for it. That's about all we get from her. Absolutely no read on the Green Ranger whatsoever. I really couldn't tell you anything about him from this episode. So hopefully we'll get some more character bits from him in the next few episodes. Red Ranger seems to be the standard Red Ranger. Young, enthusiastic, headstrong. We've kind of gotten that from the Red Rangers from the last couple of years. Obviously, there have been some exceptions, but that seems to be the current mold that the Rangers are going into. Of course, in Power Rangers, we have the rookie Red Ranger. That seems to hold true for this as well. That seems to be something either A, Power Rangers adapted from Sentai, or the reverse. In any case, he's obviously a rookie Red Ranger, last one recruited, and the episode is done obviously through his perspective, understanding who everybody is, being introduced to the world as we're being introduced to it. So he is definitely our point of view character. That being said, we don't really learn much about him other than he is very headstrong. My wife and I were watching the episode, and as soon as he jumped off the train to the next one, I'm just thinking, you idiot. But again, that's the same thing that Jan would have done, Atla would have done, Sosuke, he would have done that. Any of those Red Rangers would have done that. And that's kind of the mold that he's been thrown into. Daigo definitely would have done that. So we'll see how that turns out, if that's going to be continuing with his characterization. Now, the Pink Ranger, I kind of think that there's a little bit more going on with her here. First of all, she's that classic Pink Ranger. She's the girl. She's the girliest of the females and all that. But what's kind of interesting is the whole series, obviously, its motif other than trains is based on imagination. That's kind of like the power source. That's what the enemies are after. That's what the big deal is about. And she kind of uses a combination of imagination and self-determination in order to achieve her goal. What I think is hilarious, I was just laughing out loud, is that when she's afraid, like she's cornered by all the villains, she gets down, she curls up basically, and she says to herself, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And that just made me laugh because of her, well, obviously with the train theme, the little engine that could. I mean, how many of you guys caught that? Everybody, right? So it's very obvious. There's that aspect to it, but the fact that she is building confidence in herself and using the power of imagination, which comes in later, because when she does the line shift, becomes the Green Ranger and gets his weapon, she has to do, I think I can, and she imagines herself as being super strong, and thus she is super strong. So again, her willpower and her imagination are combining to create whatever it is that she needs at that time, whether in the first instance, which it was courage to stand up to the villains, or in the second instance, in which she needed the strength in order to lift the weapon. And I think that's really cool. I think that's a great idea for this character, and hopefully this will progress with her, that eventually it's no longer I think I can, but I know I can from her. The secondary characters that we got, the conductor and Ticket are creepy, to say the least. I don't understand the conductor's... Okay, we don't know anything about him or Ticket. And the way that it's perceived is that the conductor and Ticket are two separate beings. However, every time I watch this, I couldn't help but think it was Mr. Garrison, Mr. Hat. You know? Who else didn't think that? The thing about the conductor is there's something wrong with him. First, I don't understand why he's shouting imagination. Nor do I understand why he's got to say it in English. I don't get that. Ticket seems to be the straight man of the two, which is kind of interesting, but it's funny. The puppet's the straight man. And I do think that there's probably two personalities here. If I had to take a guess, I would say that the conductor is a construct of some kind, whether mental or a hologram, or he's not real, is what I'm trying to get at. And what he's a collection of, whether it's photons and force fields, or if they are imagining him as a mentor figure, somebody to guide him. That's something that I think will come into play. I don't think he's a real person, is ultimately what I'm getting at. But he serves his purpose. He stays on the train. And the thing is, when they do the line shift, and I'll talk about the line shift in a minute. When they do the line shift, he's able to reverse it from where he is. He's able to reset everything. So this, to me, is a good indicator that he's able to do things on the rainbow line in case they need him. So it is basically their command center. Everything is based from the Zords. We didn't get a very good look at the villains. We don't know exactly what's going on. We get introduced to them, obviously, very briefly. We get kind of like broad strokes on what's going on. Obviously, they want to set up like evil train stations all around the world. That's basically what it is. Nothing that interesting from them, really. They are very interesting designs, kind of Victorian era type of costuming, I think, is very, very good. Definitely ties in with the train theme. And of course, talking about trains, again, as we said, the Meiji Revolution is when the trains were first introduced. So, looking at the end of the Meiji Revolution, before, the First World War and the conflict with China and the Second World War, before all that happened, this would have been kind of like the tail end of the Meiji period. Therefore, for the villains to be dressed as the way they are, not to mention the foot soldiers, as Raptor pointed out, look like, cowboys, like Western thugs, basically. And so I wonder if they are trying to use that imagery of this classical westernized period in Japan's history, but also counteracting that with Western imagery to essentially be the bad guys in a way. I'm not saying they're trying to hate on America, but maybe the idea of East and West in the train world, I guess. That's a moment, but I think it's kind of interesting when we look at the visuals for our villains, and again, how they are very Victorian. And really, that look is more United States Western than it is Japanese, at least from the Japanese that I've seen. If I looked at that, I wouldn't say that was necessarily Japanese. But in any case, it'll work. I want to know more about the characters and the villains. I don't. I would love to be able to see a human villain. I think those guys always work the best. If not, they'll probably have human forms such as Canderilla and all that. But human villains work better. We'll see how the suit villains work out, because suit villains work out better when it's a more comedic, lighthearted series than it is more serious. When the more serious that it is, the less I think costume villains work. And obviously, it's definitely a very comedic Sentai. That's definitely what they're going for, based off Kyurager. And this is the direct polar opposite of what Go Busters was trying to achieve. And I think that's their goal, of course. Just about the Rangers themselves, the suits still not really growing on me. Maybe the helmets are looking a little bit better, and that's okay. The weapons are a little impressive. Red Ranger has a sword. I find it odd that they gave the Yellow Ranger a hammer and it's a female. I mean, hey, all power to her, but it is still kind of odd. I wouldn't have expected that. Pink Ranger's weapon is kind of unusual in that it shrinks them, and it was actually a little disturbing watching this girl on her knees popping the villains like little ants. That's a little disturbing, I'll go ahead and admit. So I don't know really how to feel about that, but I'm hoping that there are other practical uses for it, such as she can actually, it's a bladed weapon or can shoot lasers. Blue Ranger, he's got, a standard gun and all that. And disappointingly, the Green Ranger has an axe, much like Go On Green or other Black Rangers that have had axes and all that fill that color scheme. Black and green always have axes. So they're not being very creative. Their blaster looks like the Highway Buster from Go Onger. I'm getting a lot of Go Onger visuals here, which again, they had vehicle themes as well, but I thought they were a little uncreative with the weapons. What I mainly want to go ahead and talk about is the line shift, because I would hope in context it would make sense, but it really doesn't. Because the idea is that they switch the trains, and thus they're able to take on the costumes and the powers, take on the powers of the other Rangers. Now, again, in the pre-mentioned case where the Pink Ranger became the Green Ranger and she got the axe, she was able to wield the axe. Well, what real advantage is it to completely switch and take the time, by the way, because it took a long time to switch the trains and activate them and actually do the line shift. What sense does that make when he could just, here's my weapon? Do you have to be the Green Ranger to use the Green Ranger weapon? Because we've seen that tons of times in Power Rangers and in Sentai, where you can give somebody else your weapon and use it. And there are plenty of times that you also give other people your morpher and they can go ahead and use it. So I don't understand the point of the line shift. It serves no real practical function. Yeah, it's cool that the Red Ranger can be a male Pink Ranger, but beyond the spectacle, what else is there? What else is there about it? Maybe if they had more specialized attacks, such as, Red Rangers typically shoot fireballs and Yellow Rangers shoots lightning. If they could switch, and then the right can shoot lightning and the Yellow Ranger can shoot fireballs, I can understand that. But if it's just handing off weapons and changing your color scheme, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I think the last thing I want to go ahead and mention is the Zords themselves, the Rainbow line. Looks okay. Again, they look better as models in the show than they do as toys. I really hope they kind of grow on me and everything. Transformation sequence was done well, although I'm not able to tell if the Rainbow line is traveling on a pre-established track throughout Japan, whatever, is just going in an endless loop, or if it's generating a track itself. Now, obviously, when it's going up in the air, it's generating its own track to stay on, because it's not technically flying as much as it is going off the rails. That being the case, though, where exactly does the Rainbow line go? Is it really going on established train lines, or is it creating its own and just going anywhere it wants to go? That's what I'm trying to kind of figure out. I like how they can get into the train. You know, they have the little gate, the turnstile, and they got to scan their cards in because that's a great security precaution. I think that's primarily why it's there. Much like how Zordon did with the power coins, you can only enter the command server with a power coin. You can only get on the rainbow line if you have a pass, which Wright was able to get on before he had the pass, but we'll give that a pass since he is already established as being one of the original 5, and again I'll get to that too. So this will be a way to keep the villains out. Obviously this will play into later on because the villains will somehow get a hold of the card, they'll get a hold of the morpher, they're able to do whatever and get in. But it's nice that they established a security precaution that you can't board the train without this pass. That way it keeps unwanted people out, and I do like that. Megazord is interesting. I don't know why its weapon is the Can bar from ONYX. It's, again, the same kind of weapon. Nothing really big there. I mean, it looks okay. I just think the colors are too solid. I guess it could use a little bit more complexity in its scheme. So let me just kind of wrap up the ending a little bit because the ending is very curious. And obviously what's happening is they're creating mystery around the origin of these Rangers. It shows them as young children with a treehouse or clubhouse, whatever, and that's how they all met. And now they see each other again. But it seems that Wright, who again is our point of view character, doesn't know how he got there or what happened to him. It seems like he has gaps in memories. Then at the end, Ticket makes the comment that they are as good as dead, which they take to mean that they are dead. Now that may be a sub issue, I'm not quite sure, but if the subs are correct in implying that they are dead, that adds a whole degree of what the heck is going on that needs to be addressed. Hopefully it's going to be addressed in the next episode, because I find it odd. The season starts with children using their imagination, a vehicle called the Rainbow Line, and they established the Rangers were kids and grew up, and essentially are still kids when you look at Wright anyway, that the concept of death would be in there, and particularly saying that the Rangers are dead. And again, that's kind of what the rumor is, that they're all dead and they're ghosts or something. But until we see the second or third episode, or even a few episodes, who knows what they're going to do with that. I'm not going to say whether they are or not, but if it is true that they are dead, then we have an unusual situation on our hands, and that would bring up a number of questions. But we'll get to that when we get there. It's just, again, maybe it's a sub issue. They didn't get the context of the conversation right, but we'll find out eventually. But overall, you know, I like it. I think it's off to a decent start. I mean, it seems standard fanfare for the Sentais nowadays. That it's already established for a couple of characters. They introduce a new character to which the audience sees what's going on. But I will say this. Actually, this is something that's kind of different from the Sentais and previous, is that it does indicate that all the ToQgers are rookies, that this is like their first time battling or really doing any type of combat. Now, obviously, Yellow seems to be most capable here, but we see Blue like running away and ducking, and the Pink Ranger, she's scared and frightened and all that kind of stuff. So I like the idea that they're all, it's new for them, and they may have had their powers, but they haven't had their powers very long, maybe a day or two or a week at most. And again, we're still kind of learning from them because, of course, our starting point is when Wright comes in. That's the thing. That's when the team is complete and the first major confrontation with a villain. That's why it happens today, or at least that's how my professor would categorize it. Well, in any case, I like it. I can't wait to go ahead and see more. I want to see what happens with these characters. I want to know more about the villains. And I just want to see, it was fun. I will say that. It's a lot of fun. And I want to see where that continues. So next time, once I watch episode 2, again, once I get the subs, I will go ahead and upload a video for you. But you guys go ahead and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for watching. And the tavern is now closed.